Ghost of Tsushima turned out to be very different than I was expecting it to be. When I watched the trailers for this game, I was expecting a Souls type game, one that would make me rage and make me furious as I was trying to play it, because I've never been one of those people that could get that perfect timing down that those types of games require. Fortunately, Ghost of Tsushima turned out not to be that. And I think it's important that we talk about what type of game this actually is, because I feel like people might avoid it for the same reason I almost did. First off, I want to take a look at the review scores. It currently is sitting at an 83 on Metacritic from the critics, with a user score of about 9.2. And I really think this is probably accurate, because an 83 seems really low for as good as this game has turned out to be. Now, I'm only into about 8 hours of the game. I haven't really seen the entire story, so maybe it peters out towards the end. But as it is right now, everything I've played has been fantastic. What I was expecting was that picture-perfect, frustrating gameplay that everyone was expecting. I thought I was going to die in one hit, and it wouldn't be fun combat. The combat is actually really amazing and probably the best part of the game. I love the sword fights. Even the boss fights turned out to be something I could achieve, something I could do even on a medium difficulty. And there's something about the game where it just feels good. I mean, not only is the game gorgeous, but the combat feels fun. I don't know. It's weird to say that. It's a lot of video games, the combat has been a chore lately, but there's something about this that feels really enjoyable. All the different abilities that you can unlock, all the different stuff that you can do, and just fighting your average grunts is enjoyable. I mean, unless I'm farming resources or farming XP in most video games, if I don't have to fight it to unlock a camp or unlock an area or to rescue somebody or to do a quest, I will avoid combat most of the time, unless it's just fun to do. Here, when I come across a new encampment, when I come across a group of enemies that I can randomly slay, I'm into it. It feels good to do it. And I think one of the biggest things is the call out system, the ability to walk into an area and call out the bad guys and have them line up one by one to get killed by you is just so cool. But not only that, you can also do stealth if you're into that kind of gameplay as well, or you can mix the two. You can stealth until you finally get caught, and then when you get caught, start just ham-fisting it. I've never approached a situation and been embarrassed and felt bad about it. I've actually felt good just about every time I've taken on a group of enemies. When it comes to the graphics, this is one of the best looking games of this generation, and I think will go down as one of the best looking games for the PlayStation 4. And it's not just the overall graphics or the looks of it, it's the style of the gameplay. Instead of having like a waypoint system, the wind will guide you. That is brilliant, and it just looks so good when the wind goes off. The UI is very minimal, so it's not like, it doesn't feel like you're playing a video game, even though you're obviously playing a video game. The way that you find unique things in the area is you'll find these golden birds, and these golden birds will lead you to points of interest. It feels less like a video game than your average video game, and obviously it still is a video game, but all of these stylized choices are very unique, and I would expect games to start copying this, coming up with their own language that describes these types of things. But I don't know, it's so different, it just really leaves a positive impression. Whereas the combat is really fun, I will warn you, without spoilers here, that the storyline is not. It is a very serious, very depressing storyline, because you are the last samurai left alive trying to defend your island, and it's a war-torn island. Just about everybody you meet is going to be depressed and sad, and there's tons of death and tons of misery. But coming off of Last of Us 2 as the last big game that I played, it's still pretty fun, and at least it doesn't punish you for liking killing the bad guys. So I think maybe I'm in a good headspace to play a game like this, because even though it is kind of dark and kind of sad, I'm still able to enjoy it. And of course, when it comes to one of these action RPGs like this, all of the basic tropes are there. There's tons of abilities to unlock, tons of different ways to approach things, tons of different items to wear and collectibles and things to upgrade, and lots of different resources to use in that upgrade. And the world is open world, obviously, but I'm really surprised. It feels kind of like the last Legend of Zelda game, Breath of the Wild in that it's very packed. There are tons of side quests and side stories and shrines and animals and jump puzzles and things to do when you're not fighting things, and then a lot of random encounters as well. So I'm glad that this is not an empty world. It doesn't feel like a Ubisoft cut and paste world. It feels like it's been handcrafted to have individual unique stuff around every corner. When it comes to the characters in the game, they're all very well written. They're very well acted. If you want to, you can play the game with Japanese language and English subtitles, or play with English and English subtitles, however you want to play it. And most of the characters are fairly one-dimensional so far. I mean, they're well written, they're well animated, they're well scripted. But it is in the middle of a war scene, and so you can't really expect a lot of personality-driven stuff here. Fortunately, there's plenty of personality-driven stuff from the main character, and the fact that he's kind of tortured with having to do what he's having to do and going against his code, but I'm venturing into spoiler territory that well. But let me say, if you do play the game, I think you'll be fairly surprised that the main character has a really interesting story arc, and it's a really interesting story built around that story arc. So if I were to describe this game, I would say it's basically a Ubisoft game if they got it right. Think Breath of the Wild. If you slept on Breath of the Wild, I don't know what's wrong with you, but it's very well handcrafted. It feels like just about everywhere there's a secret, there's something to discover, there's plenty of things to do. The combat is beautiful. It almost feels like a good Ubisoft game, and that's what's so surprising about that 83 on Metacritic. I'm really surprised that people have slept on it. Now, I haven't finished the game, like I said myself, only about 8 hours in. Got plenty of game left to explore, so maybe it peters out towards the end. But that first 8 hours has been fantastic, and I highly recommend it. So if you, like me, slept on this game, had no intention of originally playing it, I gotta say, you might want to go back and reconsider that. It seems like it's one of the best games of this generation, especially when it comes to single-player, story-driven games. I highly, highly recommend it. There's no huge spoiler points that have leaked so far, so I feel like if you want to wait until this game goes on sale, it's possibly okay to do it. And of course, this game is one of those games I think is going to be enhanced on a PlayStation 5, so it's probably just going to look even better if you play it on the PlayStation 5. We will have to wait and see, but playing it on the PlayStation 4 Pro on my HDR television, it looks so good. I can't imagine it looking better. At the end of the day, I'm really glad I picked this one up, and surprisingly, even though I've not been into video games as much as I would like over the last 6 months or so, I just can't put this one down. I highly recommend you check it out. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon.